Hi, my dear students. Hope you are doing well. This is Professor CA Kartik Iyer from Iyer Professional Academy, Mumbai. Today we are going to see the CA Final Audit Amendments for May 2021 exam. Many students have messaged me saying that, sir, are the amendments very long in nature in terms of reading time, or are the amendments very complicated? My answer to both the questions is no. The amendments are very specific. They are pertaining to certain points. And if these are clarified in a proper manner, then you will not have any fear in relation to the amendments of CA Final Audit. The notes pertaining to the amendments have provided in the link below in the description area. Once you click on the link, you can download the PDF document. And my recommendation would be that you should take a print of it also, if possible, so that as we learn, I'll be marking some areas so that it is easier for you to understand. However, if printing possibility is not there, then don't worry, as you can just keep a soft copy with you. And as we learn, I'll be showing the notes on the screen also. So you can learn with me as we go in this amendments video lecture. Okay, so let's start with the CA Final Audit Amendments for May 2021 exam. First, we are going to take the chapter of Professional Ethics. Professional Ethics has specific amendments. Now, these amendments do not pertain to the CA Act. Okay, so they do not pertain to the schedules part mainly that the students are generally worried about, or they focus on the schedules part in Professional Ethics. So there are no amendments in relation to the schedules, in relation to the clauses that are there in the schedules. However, there are amendments which are connected to the schedules area, or connected in some way in terms of their descriptions or their understanding. I'll be helping you all understand in a proper specific manner in terms of how to go about it. So understand in a very clarified manner with me. So let's see this. Now, professional ethics, before going into the amendments, main thing, professional ethics, it is basically divided in the module into 4 parts. Overview of the Code of Ethics, the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, Council Guidelines, and recommendation, that is basically the self-regulatory measures that the IC has recommended to the CAs. Next, they have given in relation to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, the membership of the institute can be in 2 ways, that is CA in practice and CA in service. Second, they have given the types of misconduct that can happen, that is professional misconduct, other misconduct. Disciplinary procedure has been given, which is basically a chart which generally the student have. It is a chart that is available in the module also. And finally, you have the schedules to the act, that is the first schedule and the second schedule. This is just the overview. Okay, no amendment related matter here till now. Okay, so now let's see again. Now, this is a revised code of ethics that they have provided here, that they have said that the revised code of ethics contains the following material. Let's understand first. Part 1 is complying with the code, fundamental principles, and the conceptual framework. Okay. Part 2 is concerned with the professional accountants in service. Okay. So the CAs who are working in service. Okay. Basically, who are employed. Third is professional accountants in public practice. Now, public practice includes audit, assurance, all the services that the CA provides, taxation matters related, they give guidance. So all these comes under the public practice area. Next is independence for audit and review engagement. Now, this basically pertains to the independence for audit and review areas. And secondly, they are given independence for assurance engagement other than audit and review engagement. So other assurance engagements are covered here. So in this manner, they have covered it into part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4A and part 5. Both the independence matters, they have covered in part 4A and 4B. Okay. Now this is one answer that the students must be already be knowing, but however, they have increased the content in relation to these areas. So we'll do that in depth so that, you don't have to worry about this at all. So let's see this. What are the fundamental principles of professional ethics? You have to remember a code called COPY. Now, COPY is nothing but confidentiality, objectivity, professional competence, professional behavior, integrity. Simple. Now, what does all these mean? They have covered in a proper, they have given description in relation to this, which I have covered in this chart. You can simply take a screenshot of this chart so that it is very, very easy for you to understand this. And you can keep it with you and you can just read it while traveling. Okay. In this proper, the keywords, what is expected from the module for you to write in the exam, all these are nicely covered. So you can simply go through this chart in a nice manner. So let's read it together. What are the fundamental principles of professional ethics? First is confidentiality, second objectivity, professional competence, professional behavior, integrity, which is nothing but we call it this as COPI. Okay, COPPI, COP square I. Now let's see confidentiality. Let's understand each and every line. Alert to the possibility of inadvertent disclosure. So the CA should ensure that disclosure is not done inadvertently, that is even by mistake the disclosure does not happen. Next is not to be disclosed by the prospective client or employing organization. The CA should ensure that the prospective client or the organization that has employed him doesn't reveal any information pertaining to the client. Next is no professional and employment relationship outside the firm. So there should be no professional employment relationship outside the firm that is revealing any information that the CA knows. So CA should refrain from sharing information with such organizations. Next is not to use information for personal advantage. Information should not be used for personal advantage. Not to use or disclose even after relationship has ended. Very important point. Even if the relation or the engagement tenure, engagement period has ended, even after that, the information in relation to any of the clients should not be revealed. It should be kept as a tight secret. Next is ensure that personnel respect the accountant's duty of confidentiality. So the CA's personnel means the staff who are working under the CA, they also respect the accountant's duty in relation to confidentiality. They also understand that, okay, it is very important to keep the client's information very, very confidential. Okay. Next is see notes 1 and 2. So let's go into that. Note 1. There is a professional duty or right to disclose when not prohibited by law to comply with the requirements of peer review, quality review. So they are saying that if it is a case of peer review or quality review, then the CA will have to, if the CA's firm is under peer review or quality review, then they will have to reveal the information to the CA who has come to do the peer review or the quality review. Okay. Next is to respond to an inquiry or investigation of a professional or regulatory body. So if there is a case of inquiry or investigation, they will have to reveal the information in relation to the client. To protect the professional interest of the professional accountant in legal proceedings, suppose a court case is going on where the CA will have to reveal some details of the client, then at that time he can do it because he is protecting his professional interest. At the end, to comply with the technical and professional standards, including the ethics requirement. Now, for that purpose, if the information has to be revealed, then he will have to reveal it. Okay, simple. So whenever you see these 4-point questions in the exam, you have to be very, very alert that it can come as an MCQ question. Okay, so 3 out of these 4 points can come in MCQs, and 1 point from outside, which is not covered here, they may put it there. And you will have to understand that that 1 point, which is not covered in these 4 points, will be the right answer. Okay. So you have to be very, very careful, ensure that you are doing this in a proper manner. At least read it and keep it in a proper, nice way, so it is clear for you all. Okay. If you want to remember this in a simplistic manner, let's use a code called tip. So we'll say that if the CA receives a tip, the CA can reveal the information. So you can remember in that manner. What is tip? Tip is basically, this point is covered first, that is technical and professional standards. I is nothing but in case of inquiry or investigation, and P square is peer review, quality review, or when the CA will have to protect his professional interest. You can see here, protect the professional interest. So if the tip is received, the CA can reveal the information. You can just remember, this is just a memorizing technique, so that it helps you to remember in a proper manner. Okay. Next, note 2, it is written that in deciding whether to disclose confidential information, professional accountants should consider the following points. So what points should they keep in mind always? Whether the interests of any party, including third parties. For example, if they reveal the information of the client, will any third party's interest be affected? They should think in that manner also. Whose interest might be affected, could be harmed if the client and or the employing organization consents to the disclosure of information by the professional accountants. Even if the client consent is received or the employed organization consent is received, the CA reveals the information, but that information is harmful to some other third party, then the CA should not reveal the information. He should ensure that no one is affected by this information. Okay. Next is whether all the relevant information is known and substantiated to the extent that it is practicable. So we have to be careful that all the relevant information is properly known, it is substantiated. Proper background checking of the information should have been done before it is disclosed. The proposed type of information and to whom it is addressed. What is the type of communication, information communication that is happening? Basically, in what manner will we reveal the information, and to whom it is addressed? Who are we intending to address it? whether the parties to whom the communication is addressed are appropriate recipients. You have to always be careful that they should be appropriate recipients. Only if they are appropriate recipients, the CA should reveal the information if required. So these are the two areas, note 1 and note 2, that pertain to the point of what? Confidentiality. Now let's see objectivity. Objectivity simply means not to be biased. Okay, the CA should not have bias. Let's see, not to compromise professional or business judgment because of bias, conflict of interest, or influence of others, or undue influence of others. The CA should not reveal any information. Shall not undertake professional activity if a circumstance or relationship unduly influences the accountant's professional judgment. So you should not take up any activity or get into situations where that affects or gives somebody else an influence on the chartered accountant, because of which the objectivity might not be there. So he should be very careful about that. Next is professional competence. Let's see this point. Professional competence is nothing but the CA's ability to take decisions. So let's see. That is, the CA should have professional knowledge. He should act diligently. Diligently simply means sincerely, with proper sincerity he should work. Next is sound judgment he should have. That will only come if his sound knowledge is there, sound way of functioning is there, standards are followed, then the sound judgment will automatically be there. Next is continuing awareness of developments. He should be aware of the latest updates. Maintain the capabilities to perform competently. He should have the proper capabilities, the latest. For example, if you doing the audit of large organization, then he should have good CAD software so that he can properly, is competent in relation to these areas. Act in accordance with the requirements of the assignment. What is required he should do. And finally, appropriate training and supervision should be undertaken even by himself, and he should give it to his staff also. Next is professional behavior. Let's see this. Comply with the relevant laws and regulations, and to avoid any conduct that accountant knows or should know might discredit the profession. Discredit the profession means that might put the profession into a bad light. People think, if they think that CA is a bad profession because of some wrongdoing, then that is not good. So he should maintain his professional behavior so that the level of chartered accountants, how the world sees the chartered accountants or how the public sees the chartered accountants, that should not drop. Next is professional accountant shall be honest and truthful. So basic, simple, honesty and truthfulness should be there. Next is integrity. They should be straightforward and honest. Shall not knowingly associate with, they should not be knowingly associated with misleading statement, negligent statement. Statement negligent means proper checking in relation to that has not been done, but the statement was just given because of maybe lack of time or because of some pressure. The statement was just given for the sake of giving. That will be negligent in nature. Next is misstatement due to any omission. So if there is any omission which should not have been omitted, and because of it there is a misstatement, that should not happen. Okay. Now here they have also given see note 3. So let's see note 3 now. However, professional accountant will not be considered in breach of matters mentioned above if the professional accountant gives a modified report. So if the professional accountant gives a modified report as per SA 705 when he is doing the audit, then basically they are saying that no problem. Then we will say that the professional accountant has maintained the integrity. He has not let it go away. Next is, when a professional accountant becomes aware of having been associated with information described above, the accountant shall take steps to be disassociated from that information. So he should take steps that he is disassociated if he comes to know about any information that is, talks about some wrongdoing that is happening. He should quickly disassociate himself from that engagement as early as possible. So that is given in note 3. So if you see here that in this manner we completed the content part also of your fundamental principles of professional ethics. If you do this properly, you will have greater grip on the topic. Just ensure that you are knowing this properly. By chance, if a short note is there in the exam that comes on any of the following matters, or a question comes on this area, that is fundamental principles of professional ethics, you are able to write good content, good module-based content on that. Okay. Now, next they have given is what are the threats to the fundamental principles. So the principles that we just saw, that is copy, confidentiality, objectivity, professional competence, professional behavior, integrity. What are the threats pertaining to that? So let's see that. Now, if you want to remember the threats in a simplistic manner, you have to remember the Bollywood actor Saif Ali Khan. So we'll say threat is Saif Ali Khan because in his recent movies, he is playing the role of a villain. No, clear? You must have seen Tanaji. So in the movie Tanaji also is playing a villain's role only. So we'll call him as a threat. Okay, so we'll call him as a threat, and we'll call it the threat as Saif threat. What do we call Saif? S-A-I-F, Saif threat. Okay, so that is self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, intimidation threat, and familiarity threat. Okay, simply you have to remember the code so that if by chance the question comes in the exam, you are in a position to Write it nicely. Okay, so self threat. So let's see what are the self threats. Self-interest threat. What is this? The threat that a financial or other interest will inappropriately influence the professional accountant's judgment or behavior. Inappropriately influence. Okay. So because of any financial or other interest. See, that is why you see in the Companies Act, no, in which section? In section 141, subsection 3, clause D, you see that the auditor or his partner or his relative should not have shares in the company. For the relative, of course, there is some leeway that they can hold up to face value 1 lakh. So all this is given. But however, they have said clearly that, see, there should be no indebtedness of greater than 5 lakhs. There should be no guarantee security given which is greater than 1 lakh. All this is there so that they don't have any financial or other interest. So that threat was there, but because Companies Act has these sections in place, that threat is somewhat safeguarded. Okay. Next, self-review threat. A threat that a professional accountant will not appropriately evaluate. Basically, he will not do his work. The results of the previous judgment made or an activity performed by the accountant. So they are saying that the accountant, if he has only worked on some matter, then he may not check that properly. That can happen if, imagine, the books of accounts are checked by are made by the accountant, and he only comes as the auditor and he only checks the books of accounts. Then it is like you only writing your paper and you only correcting it. It doesn't make sense. So that is why in Companies Act also, if you remember, there is section 144. Design and implementation of any financial information system, accounting and bookkeeping services, actuarial services, rendering of outsourced financial services. All these services cannot be provided by the auditor of the company, because it will mean that he is only providing those services, and then he is only checking those services, because in the end the auditor has to check a lot of areas. So all these services should not be given, and that is given in section 144. So again, self-review threat is given here, but however, to safeguard against that, or to ensure that self-review threat is not there, section 144 is already there in place in the Companies Act. Okay, so let's see these points. The threat that the professional accountant will not appropriately evaluate the results of previous judgments made or an activity performed by the accountant or by another individual within the accountant's firm or employing organization on which the accountant will rely when forming a judgment as a part of performing a current activity. So imagine if the auditor is doing the activity and he's only checking the the work done by an organization which is connected to the auditor, well connected to the auditor. So in that case, his judgment will not be proper because he's reviewing his own work. Okay. Next is advocacy threat. Let's see this. The threat that the professional accountant will promote a client's or employing organization's position to the point that the accountant's objectivity is compromised. So basically, he's boasting about the client only. He's telling good things about the client. Client is this, client is that. In one way, he's marketing for the client. So that is not done. Okay. So there is, again, we go to section 141, subsection 3, clause E. Basically, there should not be any business relationship with the auditor. Of course, they have given 2 exceptions there, but here I would just like to point out that there should not be any business relation. The auditor should not feel that if the company grows, then the auditor's other side of income from which he's getting from the company, that is growing. That should not happen. So again, the safeguard is, some kind of safeguard is actually provided in the Companies Act. Then you have familiarity threats. Let's see this. The threat that due to a long or close relationship with a client or employing organization, a professional accountant will be too sympathetic to their interest or too accepting of their work. When will this happen? When will the auditor not be stern or not be strict with the client? If imagine the auditor's relative is there in the company in a top position, then the auditor will be, not checking their work with that much, strictness. So basically, this can happen when, if let's say the director is the mother of the auditor. Okay, so how can the auditor say that the work is wrong? Because the auditor is sentimentally attached. So here, to safeguard against that, you have section 141, subsection 3, clause F. Correct? No, that the relative cannot be the relative of the auditor. Relative of the auditor cannot be the director of the company, or even if the relative of the auditor is employed with the company in the position as a director or as a KMP, still that person, the auditor, cannot accept the work of the auditor. Basically, if he is going to become the auditor, he cannot accept it because the relative is concerned in the higher levels of the management. Okay, so that is not allowed. Again, basically it means that if there is a threat, there is also a safeguard in relation to this in the Companies Act. Finally, you have intimidation threats. Okay, intimidation can happen when, let's say, there is pressure on me that I have to give this kind of report, that kind of report. There is a lot of issues in the organization, but however, I'm intimidated or forced to give or threatened to give a clean report, then that is wrong. So let's see the point. The threat of a professional accountant will be deterred from acting objectively because of actual or perceived pressures, including attempts to exercise undue influence over the accountant. Now, to protect against that, we have a basic concept of independence. So the auditor should remain independent of the entity. For that, you have section 141 subsection 3 clause B, that he should not be an officer or employee of the company, or 141 subsection 3 clause C, that is, he should not be a partner or employee of any officer or employee of the company. So all these points are there in place in the Companies Act to ensure that all these threats are taken care of. But however, they are given you the threats, and in the exam, if this question comes, you will be required to in fact elaborate on it also. So ensure that this chart, which is beautifully given in the ICI module, I hope you are able to follow that properly. Okay. Next, they are given, that is addressing the threats. Let's see this. If the professional accountant determines that the identified threats to compliance with the fundamental principles are not at an acceptable level, if they are not at an acceptable level, the accountant shall address the threats by eliminating them or reducing them to an acceptable level. So the threat should be reduced. Now, how can you reduce the threats? Let's see this. The accountant shall do so by eliminating the circumstances. We will not let the circumstance only come. So basically, we will not allow any of our relatives to join the entity in which we are already there as an auditor. We will not allow them to join the entity at a higher position, like I explained in 141 subsection 3 clause F. Sorry, clause F, correct. So here they have given eliminating the circumstances, including interest or relationships that are creating the threats. Next is applying the safeguards where available and capable of being applied to reduce the threats to an acceptable level. Okay, so apply the safeguards to ensure that if suppose if a member of the audit team is having shares in the company, then we should have to ensure and let him disclose that, see, he has shares in this company, so we will not allot that audit to him. Okay, so that is basically the safeguard that the CA firm can put in place. Declining or ending the specific professional activity here. That is basically if we feel that the threat is too much, then we will just decline, or we can, if the activity is going on, we can end the specific professional activity. This can happen if there is intimidation. Okay, so if there is intimidation on the independent auditor, then basically the auditor can simply cut off the ties. That is basically ending the specific professional activities. So all these points are properly given. Again, see, what I'm trying to tell you all is there are 3 points here. In the exam MCQ question comes, there will be 4 options. So you have to ensure that, okay, these 3 points were the area that we had learned. That is basically addressing the threats. I hope it is very, very clear, very, very smooth. Okay. Next, let's go into some of the amendments that have come pertaining to certain areas. Now, you will see that if the font is in this style, can you see this? That is a stylish font style, which I'm using here. Okay, somewhat stylish. Okay, so that is basically your different font which I'm using other than the normal ones. So if I'm using this font style, it means that that is a small change that has been brought into the provisions basically. So you have to ensure that this can be a very recent change or an earlier change, but ensure that you are doing this properly from the exam perspective. So let's see this. So basically we are looking at section 2, subsection 2, CA in practice. Now in relation to this, the entire content I'm not going through because this is something that the students would already be knowing. But however, let's go to this point where they are talking about valuation of shares. Now remember, this is within the management consultancy and other services where there are a lot of points which are given. Okay. So here in point number 15, it is written that valuation of shares and business and advice regarding amalgamation and merger, that if the CA does, he can only do so as a CA in practice. Okay. So they are writing here, acting as a registered valuer under the Companies Act 2013, read with companies registered valuers and valuation rules 2017. So basically, if a CA acts as a registered valuer, it will be deemed that the CA is in practice. It will be deemed that it will be a practicing CA who is doing this. Okay, so that is registered valuer. Next is, here we can see point number 27 and 28, this entire area which I am showing to you right now on the screen. The entire thing has been brought in, and you can see here new additional points. So let's see this. 27, acting as insolvency professional in terms of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. So if the CA acts as an insolvency professional under IBC, then again it can only be done by a CA in practice. Administrative services, that is basically administrative services involving assisting clients with their routine and mechanical tasks within the normal course of operations. Such services require little to no professional judgment and are basically clerical in nature. Okay, it is some clerical work that help is required from the CA. Examples of administrative services will include what? Word processing services, preparing administrative or statutory forms for client's approval, submitting such forms as instructed by the client. So we are just basically doing the work of submitting the form. Then monitoring statutory filing dates. Then you have advising a client in relation to those dates, that this has to be filed by this day, this return has to be completed, this return has to be filed, these fees have to be paid. So all these things come under this category. Next, they have written, for example, the functions of the GST practitioner as specified under Rule 83, Sub Rule 8 of Central Goods and Services Tax Rule 2017. They have given that. Further, the details of outward and inward supplies. Okay, so in relation to that, in relation to GST, if that service is provided, monthly, quarterly, annual, or final return in relation to that, deposit for credit into the electronic cash register, claim for refund is made by the CA, amendment or cancellation of registration, generation of e-way bill, challan in form GST ITC 04. Then you have amendment or cancellation of enrollment under Rule 58. Remember Rule 58 of in the GST portion, that is records maintained by owner or operator of godown or warehouse, or this should not be or, this should be and. This should be and. Just a second. This should be and. Okay, and transporter, and transporter. Okay, that is basically your Rule 58. Rule 58 of GST. Next you have यहाँ पे, next point is, let's see this. Filing an intimation to pay tax under the composition scheme or withdraw from the said scheme. So composition scheme, under that, if you're paying the tax, then that will come under this part. So again, some of the area that they have mentioned, which will be covered under CA in practice. Okay, so ensure that that is noted by you. Okay, now, of course, there is, as I said, there is no change in the clauses per se, but there are some points that have been introduced in relation to these clauses. So a question which is combined with these clauses can come. So that is why I have given the clause and then explained to you the content. Remember that it is not part of the clause. I'm clarifying it again and again. It is not part of the clause. It is provided separately. However, the content, when you read it, it seems very close to this clause. Okay, so let's see that. Now let's see this one. The members engaged in teaching or coaching activities, like me, okay, teaching or coaching activities, and I am a member of ICI, while advertising such teaching or coaching activities shall comply with the regulation 190A of the Chartered Accountants Regulation 1988. So I'll just give you a background of this. See, there are many chartered accountants in practice who also teach. So what happens is, because they are teaching and also practicing, they are promoting them, they are teaching services also while they are practicing. So ICI has clearly given a a guideline in relation to this part, that see, if you are providing the work as a CA in practice, you cannot promote your teaching services. You cannot do that. However, separately, if you are having a class, you are having a tuition service where you are putting a board outside that you teach so and so subjects, that is fine. But when you are a member in practice, and if you are at the same time soliciting regarding your teaching services, then that would be incorrect. So let's see regarding to this. They are saying that a member in practice, having coaching or teaching activities, who is in coaching or teaching activities, may amount to indirect solicitation if they give an advertisement. So if a member in practice gives an advertisement of coaching or teaching activities, then it would amount to indirect solicitation as well as solicitation by any other means, which would actually be wrong, no? Because how is that connected to the CA's practicing assignment or as a CA in practice? It is not there. So what they're saying is, if you're a CA in practice, then you cannot advertise in relation to your coaching or teaching services, because it would amount to solicitation. It will amount to the growth of the firm's name unnecessarily. It would amount to growth of the firm's name in a wrong manner. So what they're saying is, you should not do this. So what they're saying here is, let's see. In view of the above, such members are advised to abstain from advertising their association with coaching or teaching activities through hoardings, posters, banners, and by any other means. So they cannot do all these activities if they are into teaching. Sorry, if they are as a member in practice, they cannot advertise in relation to their teaching or coaching service. Okay, they are saying, failing which they may be liable for disciplinary action. So if they don't follow that, then they will be liable for disciplinary action as per the provisions of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949 and the rules regulations framed thereunder. Next is, now they have given some leeway here. Let's see this. It's a good balance that ICI has maintained by putting this up. Subject to the above prohibition, such members may put outside their coaching or teaching premises. They may put outside their coaching or teaching premises signboard mentioning the name of the coaching or teaching institute. They can do that. Contact details they can provide. Subjects taught therein only they can provide. So whatever they are providing, they are teaching, they can provide as a board which is only outside the teaching or coaching premises. Okay. As regards the size and type of the signboard, the council guidelines as applicable to the firms or chartered accountants would apply. So basically, we have to comply with the council guidelines in relation to the size and type of the signboard. For example, a glow signboard is actually not allowed. So a CA in practice who is also teaching can outside his coaching class or the teaching premises, can he put a board which is neon sign or glow signboard? Answer is no, because that is not allowed by the council guidelines also. Okay, so simply that is covering this part. Next, let's see this advertisement for silver, golden, platinum or centenary celebration. So that is very 25 years, 50 years, 75 years, 100 year celebrations. So what they are saying is, now can a CA in practice advertise their celebration? Now first ICA is saying that it is not permitted to advertise the events organized by a firm or chartered accountant. And then later on, however, they say there is a considering the need for interpersonal socialization relationship of the members through such together occasions, the advertisement for silver, golden, diamond, platinum or centenary celebrations of the chartered accountant firms may be published in newspaper or newsletter. So they have given some leeway. They are saying, yeah, okay, don't advertise it too much and everything. But however, they say, chalo, there is interpersonal relationship which is also required, where it is important for CAs to get together or for discussing or to talk on different matters. It's very, very important that the community of CAs stays together. We are very strong together. So that is why they are saying that, okay, publishing it in newspaper or newsletter should be allowed. Okay, so very, very important. Just note this. Next, they are saying in relation to educational videos. You see a lot of chartered accountants, including me. Okay, now luckily I am not a CA in practice, but they are saying that if there are members who are uploading their videos on YouTube or other social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram, they may be putting it on the internet basically. So what they're saying is, while the videos of educational nature may be uploaded on the internet by the members, so they can upload. For example, I am an expert in audit and law. So if in relation to legal provisions, I'm putting up videos on YouTube, is that okay? Answer is yes. But however, no reference should be made to the chartered accountant's firm. Firm name should not be revealed. Okay, wherein the member is a partner or proprietor. Further, they have said it should not contain any contact details or website address in relation to this. Now remember, this is for CA in practice, okay, so that their firm name doesn't grow. Okay, so you should remember that. That is nothing but your educational videos related. Okay, so now you can see some specific area that have been covered nicely by ICI, on which a separate question can come in the exam. So be very, very alert and careful when you are answering these questions in the exam. Okay, let's go ahead. Now something that is in relation to clause 8. Again, I am giving the clarification. The area that you can see in a different font style below, that is here, which is starting basically here. Now, this is somewhat, connected to clause 8, but it is not being provided below clause 8. Okay. So that is why you should understand that the wording that are given here are somewhat connected. Basically, a question in connection to clause 8 can come in relation to this. Let's see. Members should therefore communicate with a retiring auditor. So that is communication with the previous auditor, basically. Retiring auditor in such a manner as to retain in their hands positive evidence of the delivery of communication to the addressee. So the main intention of communicating with the previous auditor is that the communication should be done properly, and the previous auditor should be aware that the new auditor has taken up his work. Okay. So, and there should be a positive evidence in relation to the delivery that is done. So now what they're saying in that is, in the opinion of the council, the following would be in the normal course, provide such evidence. So in what manner can this be done? So let's see this. Communication by a letter sent through registered acknowledgement due. So they have said registered acknowledgement due is fine, where acknowledgement can be received. Next is by hand, again acknowledgement writing. Again in this manner, an acknowledgement will be received from the recipient that they have received the letter. Next is acknowledgement of the communication from the retiring auditor's wide email address registered with the institute. So we can do it by email, or a last known official email address. So we can do it on the email address registered with ICI, or any last known email address that is known to the new auditor, or the unique identification number, that is unique UDIN, that is unique document identification number, generated on the UDIN portal, subject to separate guidelines issued by council in this regard. So you have to follow the UDIN guidelines, and then communication can be done with the previous auditor. Okay. Now, in relation to the same point, suppose if, for example, if the communication is done by the new auditor, and then the new auditor sees that the retiring auditor, it is written in when the letter was going to get posted, it came up with the reply that office found logged. For example, the person who was delivering it mentioned on the letter itself that the office was found logged, so we could not deliver it. So what they're saying is communication received back by the incoming auditor with office found logged written on the acknowledgement due shall be deemed as having been delivered to the retiring auditor. It shall be deemed that it is delivered to the retiring auditor. Now, firm not found at the given registered address. It is possible that the registered address with ICI, when we try to communicate on that address, the firm is not found. Basically, they must have shifted or they must have just closed down. So if that is the case, then if the communication sent by the incoming auditor is received back with remarks such as no such office exists at this address, and the address of communication is the same as registered with the institute. So basically we have sent it to the right address. But however, the reply came as what? No such office exists at this address. Then of course, see, on the date of the dispatch, the letter will be deemed to be delivered, But however, what happened is, let's say the new auditor who has come in, he just faked it. He just asked someone to go and deliver, and then a reply came that no such office exists, and he just told ICIC, we tried to deliver, but there was no such office that was existing at that address. So basically, it is deemed that the reply is given. But however, see this nice point. Unless the retiring auditor proves that it was not really served and that he was not responsible for such non-service. It was not really served and that he was not responsible for such service. Okay, so such non-service. So basically what happens is he says that the new auditor is just faking. We are there in that office, we are particularly working, the office timings are so and so, and we were there at that time. So if he's saying that at 3 p.m. on this day the office was not to be found, he's lying. I can prove it to you because I was there in office at that time at that exact address. So he has to see the word prove here. He has to prove that point here. Okay. Next point they are given as a result of professional courtesy. Now what ICI is pleading that as a result of professional courtesy and professional obligation, let's ensure that the new auditor and the previous auditor work together and ensure that the communication is going on smoothly. So what they're saying is, as a matter of professional courtesy and professional obligation, it is necessary for the new auditor appointed to act jointly with the earlier auditor and to communicate with such earlier auditor. So what they're saying in Hindi, which we say that mil baat ke kaam karo, अच्छे से काम करो, ठीक है, साथ में मिलके काम करो. So that is same thing, that to work together so that the work is completed and the compliance of communicating with the previous auditor is completed properly. Simple. Okay, now that is in relation to, that is connected to this part. Now let's go ahead. Now we are entering, that is clause 10, and in clause 10 there is a related regulation, that is regulation 192 here. And now in relation to that, there is a last point here called as any other service or audit as will be decided by council. In that they have included acting as insolvency professional, and second, a non-assurance service to a non-audit clients. Non-assurance service, example, you can take it as management consultancy service, that is a non-assurance service. Okay? So if that is provided to non-audit clients, what they're saying is for this insolvency professional and for this non-assurance service to non-audit clients, they are saying that there is an exemption from clause 10 in relation to this part. Okay. Now clause 10 basically says what? That percentage of profits cannot be charged. Contingent fees cannot be taken. So they are saying that, okay, in relation to, however, as an insolvency professional or non-assurance service to non-audit clients, such services can be, such services provided can be done on percentage of fee basis. Okay, so just remember this part in mind. Very, very simple part. Okay. Now in relation to clause 11, let's see the point here. Now in clause 11, as you know, we have to take specific and prior approval in relation to some areas. So there is a specific point on managing director, whole-time director in a company. So if I am already, auditor, and if I get a chance to be the managing director, whole-time director in a company. So can I do this? I'm not the auditor, basically. I'm a CA firm. I'm a CA in practice. So can I become the managing director, whole-time director in a company? What they have said is they can do, provided that a member and or any of his relatives do not hold substantial interest in such concern. They should not have substantial interest in the company in which I'm going to become the managing director or the whole-time director. That is, we are talking about the CA in practices. Relatives should not hold substantial interest in such concern where he's planning to become the managing director or the whole-time director. Okay, so that point is covered here. Now next is in relation to clause 9 of part 1 of the second schedule. So okay, let's read this clause. A CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he fails to invite attention to any material departure from generally accepted audit procedures applicable to circumstances. Audit procedures include technical standards, guidance notes, etc. So here what they have said is, let's see, there are specific points in relation to this clause. Again, I'm telling you, these points are in relation to this clause, but not part of this clause. Okay, so let's see this. Audit of listed companies pursuant to SEBI notification. Statutory audit of listed companies under the Companies Act 2013 shall be done by only those auditors who have subjected themselves to the peer review process of the institute and hold a valid certificate issued by the peer review board of ICAI. So what they are saying is that statutory audit of listed entities can only be done by those CAs who are auditors and who have subjected themselves to the peer review process of the institute. So basically SEBI is just saying that people who have done their peer review properly, or the firms that have completed their peer review process properly, only those firms can do the audit of listed entities. So a very good one, because only then we can ensure that the compliance or the levels of work that is expected from the CA firm, it is at a very good level. Okay, because the peer review will should have happened or would have happened in relation to this CA firm. Next is the firm registration number and the membership number. The members are required to mention the membership number and the firm registration number to all the reports issued pursuant to any attestation engagements, including certificates issued by them as proprietor of or partner in the said firm. Next is UDIN, that is Unique Document Identification Number, UDIN. Let's see what they say. The members may note that UDIN is mandatory from 1st July 2019 on all corporate or non-corporate audit, attest and assurance functions. Thus, a member of the institute in practice shall generate unique document identification number. They should create a proper UDIN in relation to every certificate, every report, every document that is generated by them. Okay. For all kinds of certification, GST and tax audit reports and other audit, assurance, attestation functions undertaken or signed by him, this is to ensure that proper documentation, safe documentation is properly kept in storage of ICAI so that it can be used for further review later on. Okay, that is in relation to these areas. Now, in relation to the Council General Guidelines 2008, let's see a few points in relation to tax audit. Tax audit, as you know, 60 tax audit assignments can be taken by a CA in practice or proprietary firm. And if it is a CA in practice, 60 tax audits per 60 tax audit assignments per partner can be taken. So here they are saying provided also that the audits conducted under 44AD, that is presumptive taxation for business, 44ADA presumptive taxation for professionals, 44A, that is business of plying, hiring, leasing of goods carriages. In relation to these areas of the income tax in 1961 shall not be taken into account for the purpose of recurring the specified number of tax audit assignments. So it will not be counted as a tax audit assignment. Okay. Next is, let's see this specified number of audit assignments. Now, this is something that you have to read in line, read with the Companies Act also. So let's see here. They're saying here, I'm reading from the first line, a member of the institute in practice shall not hold at any time appointment of more than specified number of audit assignments of companies under section 139 of the Companies Act 2013. So they say specified number of audit assignments, over and above that you cannot have audits. Okay. Now that is nothing but that we see, that is 20. 20 is the number that the Companies Act provides here. Okay, 20. Now 20 excludes, the private companies which are having less than 100 crores as paid-up capital, one-person company, dormant company, small companies. So all these are kept aside. However, let's see what CA Act says. For the above purpose, the specified number of audit assignment means in the case of chartered accountants in practice or a proprietary firm of chartered accountants. Okay. 30 audit assignments, whether in respect of private companies or other companies. So they are saying private, public, everything included. And private not less than 100 crores, more than 100 crores. We are talking about all private companies, all public companies, all companies together. They are saying together it can maximum be 30. Maximum B can be up to 30. With the exception of one-person company, dormant company. So they are saying to exclude one-person company, dormant company from the counting of 30. Okay. In the case of chartered accountants in practice, 30 audit assignments per partner in the firm, whether in respect of private companies or other companies, with the exception of one-person companies and dormant companies, same point. But if it is a CA firm, then basically we'll take 30 for all the partners together. Sorry, we'll take 30 per partner. Okay, we'll take 30 audit assignments per partner. Simple. And in that we will exclude one-person company and the dormant companies. Easy, simple to understand. Now you have something in relation to the unique document identification number, UDIN guideline. Let's see this. Whereas to curb malpractices of false certification attestation by the unauthorized persons, and to eradicate the practice of bogus certificates and to save various regulators, banks, stakeholders, etc. from being misled. The Council of Institute decided to implement an innovative concept to generate unique document identification number. Excellent initiative. Mandatorily for all kinds of certificates, GST and tax audit reports and other attached functions in phased manner, for which members of ICI were notified through the various announcements published on the website of ICI, that is www.ici.org, at the relevant times. A member of the institute in practice shall generate unique document identification number, UDIN, for all kinds of certification, GST and tax audit reports and other audit assurance and attestation functions undertaken or signed by him, which made mandatory from the following dates through the announcements published on the ICI website, that is www.ici.org, at relevant times. So they have just given dates that from which date the UDIN should be implemented. Now for all certificate, they give the date of 1st February 2019, that is already passed, so that is implemented now. All GST and tax audit reports, they have given the dates or date of 1st April 2019, that is again implemented now. And finally, for all audit assurance attestation functions with effect from 1st July 2019. So basically from 1st July 2019, all certificates, all GST tax audit reports, all audit assurance attestation function assignments, all the documentation pertaining to that will have a UDIN, that is unique document identification number. Very, very important. Simple, easy. Okay. Now finally, in relation to the logo guidelines given by ICI, so let's see the logo guidelines. The logo consists of letter CA with a tick mark inside a rounded rectangle with white background. The letter CA have been put in blue, the corporate color, which not only stands out on the background, but also denotes creativity, innovativeness, knowledge, integrity, trust, truth, stability, and that is what the blue color denotes. Okay. The upside down tick mark, that is basically what we use for audit, the tick mark that the auditor uses. The upside down tick mark, typically used by chartered accountants, has been used to symbolize the wisdom and the value of the professional. The green color in the tick mark signifies, the green color in the tick mark, which is there in the logo, okay, signifies growth, prosperity, harmony, freshness. Members are encouraged to use the new logo as published here as it is. Do not change the design and colors, including the white background. Refrain from rotating or tilting the logo. So what they are saying is, okay, don't fidget with the logo. As the logo is, the CA firm is required to use the same logo. The CA firm cannot have different logos. Every CA firm having different logo will not be allowed. This CA logo, the logo given by ICI, is the only logo that a CA in practice has to use. So they have clearly given in relation to this part. Okay, that is in relation to the logo guidelines. Okay. Now, before going into the next part, that is audit under fiscal laws, what I'll request you all is that you can pause this video here and you can just go through the professional ethics areas which I just explained to you. Just read it in a nice manner. If you have any queries, put it in the comment section below. If you have any issues, you can contact our staff on the number which has been provided here. Let me just show the number which has been provided here. And they can help you with any extra notes or or the textbook if you want, or if you're looking for my video lectures, then you can contact our staff on this number. We can pause the video here, and after that we'll be continuing with the next chapter's amendments. Okay. Okay, my dear students, now let's start with the amendments in relation to audit under fiscal laws. Okay. Now, audit under fiscal laws is basically divided into two parts. One is in relation to GST audit and second is in relation to the tax audit part. Now, first, let's focus on the GST audit part and look at the key areas which you have to focus, which are the most recent changes. So let's see that. First is audit of accounts, section 35 subsection 5, read along with section 44 subsection 2 and rule 80 stipulates as follows. So let's read this. Every registered person must get his accounts audited by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant if his aggregate turnover during the financial year exceeds 2 crores for financial year 18-19, for financial year 19-25 crores, and also note for the financial year 2021 also it is 5 crores. It is 5 crores. Okay. So you have to note that. Okay. Next is such registered person is required to furnish electronically through the common portal along with annual return a copy of the audited annual accounts. So along with the annual return, the person has to submit the audited annual accounts and a reconciliation statement duly certified, okay, duly certified in prescribed from GSTR 9C, okay. So just remember this main important thing, that it is 5 crores, okay, it is 5 crores in this case for the purpose of your GST audit. Okay, now next is audit under section 65. So let's see this. Section 65, that is audit by the taxation authorities. The audit under section 66 is a special audit to be conducted by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant nominated by the commissioner, whereas audit under section 65 is a routine audit by the tax office. As you know, there are 3 types of audit in GST audit, and this is the second part. Section 65 third is of course section 66, that is special audit. Now in section 65, let's say what they are trying to say. Notice for audit by tax authorities. The registered person shall be informed by way of a notice not less than 15 days. Again, a very important part for MCQs. Prior to the conduct of audit in such manner as may be prescribed. Rule 101 form GST ADT 01. So that is the basic rule and the form that they are provided here. Completion period of audit. The audit by tax authority shall be completed within a period of 3 months from the date of the commencement of the audit, and such period is further extendable for a period of 6 months by the commissioner for the reasons to be recorded in writing. So they have given basically here 3 months plus 6 months within which this audit has to be completed under section 65. In this regard, commencement of audit shall mean the date on which the records and the other documents called by the tax authorities are made available, very important, made available by the registered person or the actual institution of the audit, whichever is later. So look at the date when the records are made available, or the actual institution of the audit, whichever is later. For example, if they ask for the audit to be conducted starting from, let's say, around 12th of January. But however, what happens is that that person is making available all the records by 20th of Jan. So we'll take whichever is later, that is 20th of Jan. Simple. Next is cooperation with proper officer for timely completion of audit. During the course of audit, the authorized officer may require the registered person to afford him the necessary facility to verify the books of accounts or other documents as he may require, and to furnish such information and render assistance for timely completion of the audit. So basically, this is the normal part where assistance has to be provided to the officer. Okay. Next, findings to be communicated to the registered person. On conclusion of audit, the proper officer shall within again 30 days inform the registered person whose records are audited about the findings, his rights and obligations, and the reasons for such findings in such manner as may be prescribed. Rule 101 from GST ADT 02. Okay. Again, this within 30 days is very important from MCQ's perspective. So you should note this. Okay. Now there are some other points in relation to this. Let's see. Special points to be noted. Internal auditor not eligible to conduct GST audit. So they have made it very clear. So internal auditor cannot do statutory audit. Internal auditor cannot do GST audit in this case now. Next is GST auditor need not be a GST practitioner. Now, first of all, you need to understand who a GST practitioner is. GST practitioner is basically a person who, let's say a BCom graduate student who does not do the CA course, but does the GST administrative work in relation to GST return filing and all the other areas which are pertaining to GST. So that person is eligible to be a GST practitioner. But however, you should note that GST auditor currently only a CA can become a GST auditor. Okay. So GST auditor need not be a GST practitioner. So it is not necessary for a CA to be a GST practitioner. He can just be a GST auditor. Okay. The GST Act or rules do not vest a GST practitioner with the powers to audit under section 35, subsection 5. So again, they are saying that GST practitioner cannot do GST audit. The power to audit is granted only to a chartered accountant or a cost accountant who is in practice. As I said, chartered accountant or a cost accountant. Therefore, chartered accountant is not required to be registered as a GST practitioner for the purpose of certifying from GSTR 9C. Okay. Next is no GST audit of government subject to C and AG audit. So what they are saying basically is that a GST audit of government, GST audit of the government and the C and AG audit will not be subject to each other. So it will not be connected. Next, OIDAR, okay, and foreign airlines is not liable for GST audit. So the first main question is, sir, what is OIDAR? OIDAR is nothing but further persons supplying, see this, online information and database access or retrieval services from one place out, from a place outside India to a place in India, and a persons who are foreign company, which is an airline company, shall not be required to furnish reconciliation statement in form GSTR 9C. So that is what they are trying to say. Now, basically, your main query can be, sir, what is OIDAR? Okay, I've never heard about this. So let's see this. OIDAR. Now, this is not part of the portion, but just for knowledge sake, I'm providing this. OIDAR means service whose delivery is mediated by information technology over the internet or an electronic network, and the nature of which renders their supply essentially automated and involving minimum human intervention and impossible to ensure in the absence of information technology, and includes electronic services such as, so what all they have included in this services. Let's see. First is advertising on the internet. Second, providing cloud services, provision of ebooks, movies, music, software, other intangible through telecommunication networks. Okay. Next can be providing data retrievable or otherwise to any person in electronic form through a computer network. Online supplies of digital content, your Netflix, you have your Amazon Prime, movies, television shows, music and the like, digital data storage, and finally you have online gaming. So all these services come under OIDAR. So now let's take that and again read. So they are saying basically OIDAR and foreign airlines are not liable for GST audit. So they are kept OIDAR and foreign airlines out of the purview of GST audit. But however, if you see here, there is a hash I have made here, and after that hash is repeated here once again. So let's read this. However, foreign airline company is required to submit a statement of receipts and payments for the financial year in respect of its Indian business operations, duly authenticated by a practicing chartered accountant in India, or a firm or a limited liability partnership (LLP) or practicing CAs in India, for each GSTIN by 30th September of the year succeeding the financial year. So that is a requirement they have to provide in terms of documentation. Okay, their receipts and payment should be provided. Receipts and payment statement should be provided. Okay, but however, GST audit will not be applicable to such organizations. Okay, that's it. That's in relation to the GST audit part. What I'll request you all is just to go through the GST audit part of this audit under fiscal laws, and then after that, we will be continuing with the income tax part. That is basically the tax audit part of it. Please go ahead, please. Okay, so now let's start with the tax audit part of audit under fiscal laws. So let's understand this together. Now, of course, there is no amendment in relation to what I'm telling now, but there is a connected area in which amendment is there. So I'll read that. So before that, let's just understand this one. So they have said here in section 44AB, they have said that, read the point number A with me from here. So we'll start from here. Audit of accounts of certain persons carrying on business or profession. Every person carrying on business shall, if his total sales, turnover or gross receipts, as the case may be, in business exceed or exceeds 1 crore rupees in any previous year. So basically they are given the limit as 1 crore here if you have a business. So if your business income exceeds, let's say, more than 1 crore, so then what will happen is you will have to conduct the tax audit of your business. However, now note this point, very important one. Let's see this. Please read note number 1. With effect from assessment year 2021, the threshold limit for a person carrying on business has been increased from rupees 1 crore to rupees 5 crores. In case when cash receipts and payments made during the year does not exceed, see this, does not exceed 5% of the total receipt or payment, as the case may be. In other words, 95% or more of the business transaction should be done through banking channels. So the main intention of this amendment is that more and more activities are done through banking channels, more and more income is earned through banking channels. And if the cash receipts does not exceed 5%, so basically it is 5% or below that, then basically they are saying that the limit can be increased from 1 crore to 5 crores. 1 crore to 5 crores तक 5 crores के नीचे रहेगा तो आपको टैक्स ऑडिट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, और 5 crores के ऊपर रहा तो आपको टैक्स ऑडिट करने की जरूरत है. Okay, so very important one. I hope you have noted this down. Okay, let's see this one, very important from MCQ's perspective. Let's read this. Penalty for not getting the accounts audited as required under section 44AB. According to section 271B, if any person who is required to comply with section 44AB fails to get his accounts audited in respect of any year or years as required under section 44AB, the assessing officer may impose a penalty. The penalty shall be lower of the following amounts. So what is the limit that they have given? First is 0.5% of the total sales, turnover or gross receipts, as the case may be, in business, or of the gross receipts in profession in such year or years. B, rupees 1,50,000. However, according to section 273B, no penalty shall be imposed if reasonable cause for such failure is proved. If reasonable cause is proved, then no problem at all. Okay. So these are the areas that have been covered. Now in Form 3CD, there are basically changes in three main clauses. That is basically 8A. You will see clause number 18 here, and you will see one more clause, that is clause number 32 here. Okay. And not major big changes. In fact, 8A and 18 are somewhat connected only. And there is a separate 32. In 32 also, there is a simple change that has gotten. Okay. So let's see that. Now in 8A, they have said, they have put in one more condition here after 8. That is whether the SSE has opted for taxation under section 115BA, 115BA and 115BAB. First, let's understand BAA first. So there they have, the provision is in relation to tax on income of domestic companies to pay tax. So how the domestic companies will be liable to pay tax in relation to if they satisfy the condition under this section. And the tax percentage that is finalized for this is 22%. Okay, that is currently which is running. For 15BAB, you will see here a tax on income of new manufacturing domestic companies. So again, to boost the domestic companies, there are some sections pertaining to that in the Income Tax Act, regarding which the auditor has to, the tax auditor will have to provide information in the tax audit report. And finally, 115BA, they have written companies other than 115BA and BAB. That also we have to report here in this part. So that is basically whether the SSE has opted for taxation under the following sections. So the auditor has to throw light in relation to this part. That is the tax auditor. Next is your clause 18. So let's see this. Under clause 18, let's read the basic part. Let's see this. Particulars of depreciation allowable as per Income Tax Act in respect of each asset or block of assets, as the case may be, in the following form: description of asset or block of assets, rate of depreciation, actual cost of written down value, as the case may be. And further, they have said here, if you see CA, let's see this part, they have written here, adjustment made to the written down value under section 115 BAA. Can you see BAA? BAA is something that we did here, which is the red part. This is the area which we had done. Okay. So in relation to that, we have to provide the written down value. Okay. So what is the adjustment made to the written down value? And finally, we have to give the adjusted written down value. So what is the adjustment made to the written down value and what is the adjusted written down value, that we have to provide here. Okay. And that is it in relation to that, and the other areas still stay the same. That is for clause 18. Now for clause 32, what have they said? Details of brought forward loss or depreciation allowance in the following manner to the extent available, and then the details as per this table have to be filled by the tax auditor. And after this areas are done, and they have provided a what do you call a footnote there, sort of a footnote for this part. If the assessed depreciation is less and no appeal pending, then take assessed to be filled in for assessment here 2021 only. So that is basically for this area. Okay. Then your clause 32 is then continues, and here of course you can see this reference point number 3 here, and that same reference you can see here basically. Just a second, I'll just show it to you. You can see it here as 3. Okay. So this is substituted by the Income Tax Act 22nd Amendment Rules 2020 with effect from 1st of October 2020. Okay. So that is in place now. That's it. That is in relation to the fiscal laws. Again, go through the fiscal laws areas, because I am always allowing that. I always want the students to learn with me itself. So that is why please ensure that you are doing the reading of fiscal laws amendments, and pause the video, watch it nicely, or study it nicely, and then after that you can play it so that we can continue with the other chapters. Okay, go ahead please. Okay, now let's start with the amendments of peer review. Now peer review has quite a few amendments, but they are, between the answers, or 1 point of the answer, 2-3 points of the answer, something like that. Okay, so we'll do it in a slow manner. You will understand everything very well. I'm very confident about that. So let's see. Here you have technical standards. In technical standards, you have this basic answer, which they should have been technical standards, ethical standards, professional standards. And there is an answer here called as technical, ethical, professional standards means. Okay. Now the earlier answer, I'm showing it to you on the left hand side, which you can see here, that had point number 1, 2, 3, and then after that you had point number 4 and 5, which is there in the box on the left hand side. Okay. Now what has happened because of the change is that this point is entirely gone. It is gone, and because it is gone, in place of that, now these 3 areas have come into the picture: first, second, and third. So even this was, if you see earlier, it was also pertaining in relation to the accounting standards. Just a second. This was also pertaining in relation to the accounting standards. And now the 3 points which have been added are also pertaining to the accounting standard, just that they have increased the accounting standards which are there, not the number of accounting standards, but the Ind AS, AS which is notified by ICI, AS which is provided, which is prescribed under section 133. So all these things they have provided here. So we'll see that. Point number 2 and 3 are properly retained, so there is no change in that. So point number 2 and 3 are there as they were. Now point number 4 and 5 have been completely removed. Point number 4 and 5 have been completely removed. 4 has been replaced by this point and 5 has been replaced by this point. Okay, so these are the changes that are there in relation to this answer. So let's read one by one and take confidence into it. Let's see this. Very simple answer again. Let's do that. Let's see. First, they are writing technical standards, ethical standard, professional standard means, and first let's do this point now. As per the statement, technical, professional, ethical standard means accounting standards issued by ICI that are applicable for entities other than companies under the Companies Act 2013. Okay, so for the companies which are for entities which are other than companies under the Companies Act 2013. So that is nothing but the standard which have been issued by ICAI. Okay. Next is accounting standard prescribed under section 133 of the Companies Act 2013 by the central government based on the recommendation of ICI and in consultation with NAFRA, that is NFRA, and notified as Accounting Standards Rules 2006 as amended from time to time. Okay, so now that is basically your accounting standards that have been prescribed under section 133. Now the next part is very important, that is in relation to Ind AS now. So what are they saying here? Let's see. Indian accounting standards prescribed under section 133 of the Companies Act 2013 by the central government based on the same recommendation of ICI and in consultation with NFRA and notified as Companies Indian Accounting Standards Rules 2015 as amended from time to time. Okay, so AS ICI, AS 133, Ind AS 133. Okay, so how do you remember the simple point? AS ICI, AS 133, and finally Ind AS 133. Very easy to remember, 133. So that will cover the 3 points, the initial 3 points of the area that you have to remember. Next is the same. These were there earlier also. So standards issued by ICI, including statements on quality control, standards on internal audit, guidance notes. You have engagement standard. The code that I had given even in my video lectures is basically stage. So you can take it from there. Next is you have naughty gap, naughty. Okay, so let's see naughty gap. Okay, so let's do this point. Naughty gap is nothing but notifications ka NO, then you have directions ka DI, then you have guidelines, announcements, pronouncements, professional standards issued by council or its committees. So that is also covered here, which stays the same. So point number 2 and 3, nothing is changed. Now point number 4 and 5 completely changed. However, if you see here, this was also pertaining to framework. So you will also see framework here. And this also pertaining to the provisions. Okay, this is also pertaining to the provisions, but the content, the wordings have changed. So let's see this. Framework for the preparation and the presentation of financial statements, preface to the standards on quality control, auditing review, other assurance and related services, and framework for assurance engagements. So in relation to the framework, okay. Now we have to have a little bit background of peer review, which I'll just explain in short. See, peer review is basically where peer will review. So basically one CA will review the work of another CA. So if that is happening, then the CA who is reviewing, okay, so that CA will require some kind of benchmark or for comparison purpose. For example, if the benchmark is this, for example, the frameworks have been provided, like you can see in this point, the frameworks have been provided. So he will see whether the practice unit has been working, not following that framework or is complying with that framework or overdoing it or, doing some other compliances also. So we'll be checking this part. So that is why the benchmark is very important. That is why we are using the accounting standards in this case. You are using the standards, you are using the naughty gaps here, you are using the framework and the provisions here because they act as benchmark and we are checking whether the practice unit is working as per that or not. Okay. Next is provisions. That is this point, provisions of the relevant statute and or the rules or regulations which are applicable in the context of specific engagements being reviewed, including instructions, guidelines, notifications, directions issued by regulatory bodies as covered in the scope of assurance engagement. So again, whether the provisions have been complied with properly or not, which are required to be complied by the practice unit. Easy to understand. Now you can see here point number 6, point number 7. So how will you do this as? This will be your new point number 1. So I'll just give you the new numbering. This is your new point number 1. So point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. This will become your point number 4 here now. Okay, so this will become your point number 4 now in the exam. And this will become your point number 5 in the exam. And of course, you will have point number 6 here and point number 7 here. Okay. This will be clearly provided to you in the notes. So basically, you will be able to see there exactly in the manner in which you need to study. Also, in the notes, I'll be providing for just for comparison purpose, the left-hand side part also. You can just simply cancel it in the notes. It will give you a better perspective while writing the answer in the exam. Okay. Now let's move ahead to the applicability of peer review. Earlier, you know, we had level 1, level 2 and level 3 entities also. Okay. So like that, the peer review work used to be assigned. But however, now they have said that only level 1 and level 2 is there. And this is just the other points. So earlier in my notes also, you had level 1, level 2 and level 3. But now you just have level 1, level 2 and just other points. Okay. So now let's see how this works. Basically, let's go with each and every point properly. See, in the majority of the areas, the things have not changed in this. But it is very important to study it in entirety. So particularly for this answer, even though it is not an amendment, let's do it in entirety so that you are able to understand and have a proper grip in this area. Okay. So let's see this. First is central statutory audit of public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, cooperative banks, and public financial institutions. Second is central statutory audit of central or state public sector undertakings and central cooperative societies based on criteria such as turnover or paid-up capital, etc., as will be decided by the board. Okay. So all these entities will fall under level 1. Abhi level 1 hoga to kya hoga? Pehle wo bhi dekh lete chalo. That is basically the periodicity of peer review for level 1 entities is once in every 3 years. So if I am a CA firm which is doing the audit of level 1 entities, then the CA firm which is doing such an audit, basically my firm, its peer review will happen once in every 3 years. Okay, so that is the main, crux of the matter. So if I am having, let's say, if my firm, Kartik Iyer and Associates, let's say, it is having public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, cooperative banks, or public financial institutions, or we saw the public sector undertakings here, central cooperative societies. If I have these kind of organizations here, of course, central cooperative societies, which are satisfying the criteria of turnover or paid-up capital, as we were decided by the peer review board. So when they say board is peer review board, only then, it will be said that I am doing the audit of level 1 entities, and hence my peer review should happen once in every 3 years. Okay. Then you have central statutory audit of insurance companies. So basically, I am doing the audit of insurance companies. So my peer review should happen once in every 3 years. Okay. I hope that point is now clarified. Then you have statutory audit of asset management companies or mutual funds. Then you have statutory audit of enterprises whose equity or debt securities are listed in India or abroad, that is outside India. Now see this. Okay. Now this is the main, the font style has changed. So let's see this. Statutory audit of any body corporate, including trusts, which are covered under public interest entities. So now if I am doing the audit of such entities, then basically I'll be covered under as a level, I'm doing the audit of level 1 entities. So basically my audit will be done, my peer review will be done once in every 3 years. Next is statutory audit of entities which have raised funds from public or banks or financial institutions of over 50 crores during the period under review. Statutory audit of entities which have raised donations and or contributions over 50 crores during the period under review. So they have raised donations and or contribution exceeding what? 50 crores. Okay. After that, you have point number 9, that is statutory audit of entities having net worth of rupees 250 crores at any time during the period under review. Statutory audit of entities which have been funded by central and or state government schemes of over 50 crores during the period under review. Then you have statutory audit of NBFCs as may defined by the board, central statutory audit of regional rural banks. Okay, remember central statutory audit of regional rural banks, and statutory audit of parent, subsidiary, associate, joint venture of the above entity. So whatever entities are mentioned above, if you are the parent, if we are doing the audit of the parent, subsidiary, associate, or joint venture companies of such companies, then basically it will be said that I am doing the audit of level 1 entities, and hence my peer review will be conducted once in every 3 years. Okay. So that is the significance of it. Now let's go to the next part. That is level 2 entities. Let's see this. Statutory, internal, concurrent systems, tax audit or departmental review of branches or offices of public sector undertakings. See, look at the language. This is the central. Here also we see public sector undertakings. Here also we saw it. But here it was central statutory audit. Here it is of the branches or offices of the public sector undertakings. Okay. Public sector of private sector and of foreign banks, insurance companies, cooperative societies, regional rural banks. Statutory audit of NBFC as defined by the board. Statutory audit of entities. So that is the same thing here. You can just cancel this part if it is appearing then. Okay. Just a second. So that there is no confusion, you know. Okay, so let's do this. Statutory audit of entities having net worth of over 5 crores or an annual turnover of more than 50 crores during the period under review. And see again, different font style. Unique document identification number generated by the practice units more than the specified number determined by the board from time to time. So let's say that the board decides that 200 is the document generated. So now if it is exceeding 200, so then basically we'll be covered under if we are doing so many certifications audits of organizations where we have now created more than 200 UDINs, then basically we'll be covered. It will be said that we are a level 2 entity, and hence our peer review should happen once in every 4 years. Okay, so we'll do the next points. Okay, so that is in relation to the UDIN part. Now again, the board here is the peer review board. Okay, don't confuse this with any other board. Generally, students confuse board with board of directors or the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Okay, so it is board here is the peer review board. Next is statutory audit of entities which have raised funds from public or banks or financial institutions of more than 25 crores but less than 50 crores. Remember, here it was exceeding 50 crores. Here it was exceeding 50 crores. Just a second. See this, here it was exceeding 50 crores. Okay, raising funds. Now here they have said between 25 crores but less than 50 crores during the period under review. Okay. Then any other practice unit providing assurance or other services not covered under 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 above. So if you are providing assurance services which are not covered in the above 5 matters, then basically the peer review will be conducted once in every 4 years. Okay. Next, let's see. Next is basically other points. Let's look into this part. They have said that the board based on the specific information received from the secretary of ICI or any other committee of the institute, including disciplinary directorate or any other regulator, which in the opinion of the board requires a special review. Okay, so they have put a plea that we need to do a special review of this organization or of this firm of CA. A special review of the practice unit may conduct a special review of the practice unit. Any practice unit not selected for peer review may suo moto. So if the practice unit wants to suo moto apply for peer review, can it do so? Answer is yes. May suo moto apply to the board for the conduct of its peer review. The board shall act upon the same within 30 days from the date of receipt of such a request. Okay, so that they will be doing. Next is an auditee client may request the board for the conduct of peer review of its auditor or practice unit. The board shall act upon the same within 30 days from the date of the receipt of such request. So again, a very important point for MCQs, that is within 30 days the board has to act. Finally, the board may with the approval of the council modify any of the above criteria. So the board may change the criteria on the basis of which these conditions have been put in. That is basically what we read in the third column. Okay, so that is in relation to this part. Now you have something in relation to the peer review board. Now this is important from MCQ's perspective because there are a lot of small points here. So let's look into that. First, they are talking about the peer review board. That is, the board shall be constituted by the council. The board shall consist of maximum 12 members to be appointed by the council. So 12 members will be appointed by the council. Okay, of whom at least 50% shall be amongst the members of the council. So they are saying that at least 50% minimum of the peer review board should consist of the council members of ICI. Okay, as defined in section 9 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, as amended from time to time. The council may nominate members to the board from outside bodies and from amongst the persons, amongst the prominent individuals of high integrity and reputation. So see, council is appointing 50%. council members are forming at least 50%. The other members the council will be appointing out of people who are having high integrity reputation, but not limited to regulatory authorities, bankers, academicians, economists, legal professionals, business executives. So they can come from all the different fields, but they should be of high integrity and reputation. The council shall appoint the chairman and the vice chairman from amongst its elected council members appointed on the board. So the council will appoint the chairman and the vice chairman. Now, the term of a 2/3 member shall be for 3 years or end of the term of the member in the council, whichever is earlier. So basically they are saying whenever the term ends or whenever the 3 years get over, whichever is earlier, at that time they'll have to vacate the office or such other period as may be prescribed by the council from time to time. Next, they have said the chairman and the vice chairman of the board may be rotated every year by the council of the institute. The chairman and the vice chairman will keep rotating every year. Meeting requirements: no business shall be transacted at any meeting of the board unless there are present at least 1/3 members of the board, but not less than 3 members, including the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman. So basically they have provided the quorum here. So okay, so they have said at least 1/3 of the members of the board, but not less than 3 members. So 1/3 or 3, whichever is higher, that should be the quorum. Okay, including the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman. In the absence of quorum, within half an hour, so in half an hour if the quorum is not present of the time fixed for the meeting shall stand adjourned to a date, time and place fixed by the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman. Okay. The board shall meet as and when required for transactions of the business before it. However, at least one meeting should be held in every 3 months. See, again, one more point that can come in MCQs. You can see a lot of small points in this part. Remember this, that is this, see this maximum 12 members, then this once in every 3 months. You add this, that is 2/3 of the members will be appointed for 3 years or the end of the term, whichever is earlier. So all these are small points that can come in the MCQ. So be very, very careful. Finally, reporting: the board shall submit a report to the council prior to the date of every meeting of the council. So even that is provided here. Simple. Okay. Now that is in relation to the peer review board. Now let's look into the eligibility of the reviewer. See, the peer review board will appoint the reviewer. Okay. And the reviewer will then review whether the technical standard, ethical standard, professional standards have been complied with or not by the practice unit. So now let's look into the eligibility of the reviewer. Again, in this answer, there are quite a few changes. So basically what I thought is, chalo, pura answer hi achhe se karwa dete, so that it is easy for you to retain it. Okay. So now let's understand in a simplistic manner so that, there is no confusion. They have said should have, shall possess, should be. So what should be there is here, and what should not be there is on the other side. Okay. So first let's see, should have, shall possess, should be. He shall be a member in practice with at least 10 years of experience for level 1 entities. So if basically the reviewer is going to do the review work, he should also have the experience. For example, he's going to review the entities which have been dealing with, who have been handling the audit of level 1 entities. Then they are saying here that now this person, the reviewer himself, should have 10 years of experience in relation to the level 1 entities. Okay. And 7 years of experience for the level 2 entities. So your 7 years of experience for the level 2 entities. So basically I'm just writing here, if you see, I'm just writing here level 1 and I'm just writing here level 2. Okay. So for a member in practice, if I want to become a reviewer, I should have 10 years of experience of doing the audit of level 1 entities, and I should have minimum 7 years of experience of doing the audit of level 2 entities, so that I can go and be the reviewer. Dekho, reviewer, if a person is a reviewer, that person should have a lot of self-confidence and a lot of experience. Okay, so only then that person can review. Okay, so that is the main content here. Second, they have said here, let's see this, in case a member has moved from industry is MFI. Okay. To practice and is currently in practice, he should have at least 15 years of experience in the industry. So let's say a person moves from industry to practice. So industry experience should also be counted. No, it is a good experience then. So they have said, see, industry will need 15 years of experience minimum. Okay. At least 15 years of experience in the industry and at least 5 years of experience in practice for level 1 entities. So for, if you want to do the audit, the peer review of level 1 entities, then you should have 15 years of experience in the industry and minimum 5 years of experience of doing the audit of level 1 entities, and experience of at least 10 years in the industry and at least 3 years practice experience in practice for level 2 entities. If you are going to do the peer review of level 2 entities, then basically you need 10 years experience minimum of working in the industry, and you need to have 3 years of audit experience of level 1 of audit experience, that is basically 3 years in practice. It should be 3 years in practice. Simple, easy. So that is what they have said here. Okay. So very simple to remember. I'll just quickly revise it. Just be with me. Member in practice, member who has moved from industry. MFI is moved from industry. See this, moved from industry. If it is a member in practice, then 10 years experience. Level 2 ka review karna hai to 7 years experience. If it's a person who has moved from industry, then basically we are looking at 15 years experience in the industry plus 5 years experience as CA in practice. And we need a person having 10 years experience in the industry and 3 years minimum in practice as a CA, as a being a partner or a proprietor of a CA firm. So now if this is condition, this condition is satisfied, only then that person can become a peer reviewer. Okay, that is in relation to the experience. Now, after experience, let's go into the second most important point, and that is T&T. T&T is nothing but simple. Should have undergone the training, should have undergone the requisite training and cleared the requisite test for peer review as prescribed by the board. So the board conducts the test or the training in relation to peer review. Now, both have to be complied with. That is nothing but T&T. Okay. Now, third is should have conducted the audit of level 1 entities for at least 7 years or got his entity audited for at least 7 years, which should be a level 1 entity. So basically, the person has, conducted audit of level 1 entities for 7 years. Okay, so that's a good experience. 7 years experience if that person has, or got his entity audited for at least 7 years, which should be a level 1 entity. So if he has his own entity which has got audited for 7 years, then they are saying that this person will be eligible to be a peer reviewer of level 1 entities. Okay. So now very nice. A7 is nothing but audit 7 years, audit 7 years, audit of level 1 entities for 7 years. Okay. That is A7. Simple. That is in relation to the 3 parts. Always ensure that this is, studied in 3 parts. That is basically experience. Then you have T&T, and then you have, just a second, experience. Then you have T&T, and after that you have the, basically the audit experience. Okay. For level 1 entities. Done. Simple. Now let's go to the should not part. Let's see this. Eligibility of the reviewer should not. He should not have disciplinary action or proceedings pending against him. So there should be no disciplinary action. The code I'm giving you here, it is CA God. You can see on the right hand side. So this is in relation to the disciplinary action. Okay. Next, have been found guilty by the council or the disciplinary board or committees at any time. So if that person has been found guilty, then that again, that person will not be able to be a reviewer. Okay. You cannot get your records reviewed by organization or a person who has been reprimanded for disciplinary action or the proceeding is going on against him, or that person is guilty by the ICI or the disciplinary board or the committees. Now if such things happen, then it seems that that person is a very shady person. Okay. Next is one level up. Let's see this. Have been convicted by the competent court, whether within or outside India, of an offence involving moral turpitude and punishable with transportation or imprisonment. Many students ask me, sir, what is the transportation? Transportation means deportation. If it has been done outside India, then the foreign country may just deport that person to India. That is called a transportation. That is nothing but convicted. So that is this C. Okay. Next is have obligations or conflict of interest in practice unit. Or its partners or personal. So basically, if there is any conflict of interest, or if let's say the practice unit is of my wife, and if I am going to become the peer reviewer, now so I'll not say anything wrong regarding that. Okay, because I have to stay in my house. Are you understanding? Okay, that is nothing but have obligation or conflict of interest in practice unit. That is nothing but your O. Simple. At the end, I have mentioned accept any professional assignment from practice unit for a period of 2 years from the date of appointment. So they should not accept any work from the practice unit. Imagine if you have done the review, and after doing the review, the practice unit says, "Ki just approach me in 15 days. We will make you a partner in our firm also." Now, if this happens, then every person who is doing the review will try to take advantage if he has wrongful mindset, and he will ensure that the peer review is the report that is given to the board is talking very nicely about the practice unit and everything, because he's getting an advantage. He's becoming the partner in that practice unit. So that is why they have said that, see, the practice unit cannot, the professional, the reviewer and the practice unit should not have any association for how many years? For 2 years from the date of appointment. Okay, after the work is done. With this, I'd like to also say one more point. Also, the peer reviewer should not have accepted any professional assignment 2 years before the appointment from that practice unit. So, okay, so it is possible that one CA firm can refer the work to another CA firm. So they should not have accepted 2 years before the appointment also. That is clearly mentioned. So that is nothing but in relation to the acceptance. So you have a code, a simple code called as CA God. Okay, CA God, CA dog. You can just mix and match with this, and you can just just remember it. But I'm just going with CA God. It is simple to remember. See, always take code which are very easy to remember and simple to write in the exam. Okay, so let's do this. First, we are seeing C, that is convicted. So that is point number 1 for us. Then you have A, that is acceptance. Then you have G, that is nothing but your guilty. And O से आ जाएगा अपना यहाँ पे, that is obligation or conflict of interest in practice unit. And finally, you have that is your disciplinary action or proceedings pending against him. So these are the 5 points that we see. CA God. Okay. So very simple. Experience, TNT, A7, and here you have CA God. Simple to remember, easy to write in the exam, so that you get complete full marks in the exam. Okay. In the exam, also please ensure that this point is properly written. Okay. So this is also part of your answer. Okay. Now let's go to this part. Now this talks about the obligation of the practice unit and the reviewer. Let's see this. Obligations of the practice unit. Any practice unit, in addition to the prescribed information to be furnished, including the questionnaire, statements, and such other particulars as the board may deem fit, shall comply with the following. Okay, so what they should do? Simple. See, if I am the practice unit and if another CA is going to come and check my work, okay. Now, what are my obligations? Very simple. We'll just go through it in a simplistic manner. Let's see this. I have to produce any record. Can you see the record or document or any prescribed register which is maintained by the practice unit? So I have to give all the information that I have, basically. Second is, if they ask for any explanation, I cannot say, sorry boss, I cannot give you any explanation. I'm having moon rut today. I cannot say all these things. That is nothing but explanation or further particulars or information that has been to be given that I have to give. Okay, that is basically explanation or further particulars or information. Next is all assistance. So let's see this part. All assistance in connection with the peer review. So basically, the reviewer shall be provided with all assistance by the practice unit. Basically, whatever is required, they should ensure that the peer review process is going on smoothly. Okay. And let's see the last one. We'll have to read the last point because it's a very interesting point. They have written here, where any information or matter relevant to the practice unit is recorded, otherwise in a legible form. So it is, the documentation is not proper. Okay. Now, legible form, not in legible form can mean 2 things. Okay. First is, it is not readable. It is in English, but it is not readable. Maybe the paper is crumbled or torn or water has dropped on it. So because of that, you are not able to read it. Or if suppose if it is electronic data, then basically that file is showing as corrupt. So again, it is not in legible form. Basically, we cannot read it. So they are saying that the practice unit shall provide and present to the reviewer a reproduction of any such information or matter of the relevant part of it in legible form. So proper reproduction has to be done. Properly it has to be given. Now suppose if the language in which the documentation was kept or the information on the matter was kept is in other than English, then they are saying that because in India there are so many languages, so data can be kept in any format, in any language. So they have said that with a translation in English or Hindi, if the matter is in any other language and if such translation is requested for by the reviewer, so basically, if the reviewer asks for a translation, then the practice unit has to provide a translated version also. So if it is not in legible format, then the practice unit's duty is to provide it in legible format. And if it is not in the language that the reviewer wants, then it should be translated in Hindi or English. Okay. Finally, they have said the practice unit shall be responsible and accountable for the accuracy and the truthfulness of the translation so provided. Okay, so they have to ensure that translation is taking place properly. So that is nothing but the word is reproduction. Reproduction of any information which is not available in legible form, or if it is in any other language and we require the translation in Hindi or English. So I'm taking a code here called as rare. Rare can be, behind rear view mirror, we say. Okay, it can also be, you can also take the code word as RARE also, that kind of rare. Okay. What a rare masterpiece or what a rare painting this is. Okay, something you can take that also. But I'm going with this order. That is why I've taken here REAR. That is REAR. Okay, simple. Simple. That is the obligation of the practice unit. Ensure that this is done spick and span. Okay, no problem should be there in this. Next is obligations of the peer reviewer. Very simple. The peer reviewer shall not extract any document from the practice unit. Let's read this. The reviewer shall not take any extracts of the practice unit client's file or records examined by him while conducting the peer review as a part of his working papers. He cannot do that. So whatever peer review you have to be in the client's place and complete that review. You cannot take any extracts. Next is the reviewer shall complete the review within the prescribed time frame. So it should be completed within the prescribed time frame. Easy. Okay. Very simple. Now let's talk about the peer review process. Okay. Now see, the peer review process is divided into several parts. So first is basically called as selection of practice unit and appointment of the reviewer. The second deals with planning. The third deals with execution. And the fourth deals with reporting. In relation to reporting, there are no changes. However, in relation to selection, there are quite a few changes which have been provided here. Now in the entire peer review process, you will see that there are, very few changes. So whatever is pertaining to the changes, I've kept only that. But the selection of practice unit and appointment of reviewer, basically entirety I've given, because only then you will get the context of it. However, if you see the planning part, only that small information which is added now, I'll be providing regarding that in relation to the execution part also in the same way. And however, they have also given a nice chart in the module, which I've taken here. So ICI has, genuinely made very good notes in terms of the, the chart based format. So we'll go through that as well so that it is very easy for you to understand. Okay. So these are the two areas that we'll be looking at. Now, first, let's see this part. First, they have said selection of practice unit and appointment of the reviewer. Notification to the practice unit. A practice unit which has been selected for peer review shall be notified by the board. Okay. So the board will inform the practice unit that we have selected you. Now that is the very basic first step. Next, a declaration in the form approved by the board shall be submitted by the practice unit within 7 days. So a declaration will be provided and will be submitted by the practice unit within 7 days to the board from the date the practice unit has been notified by the board, and so that the reviewer to be allotted from the panel of 3 reviewers can be identified by the board as per the level submitted by practice unit in the declared form. So whatever form the board has given to the practice unit, they will fill that form, provide to the board within how many days? Within 7 days. And in that, the board will come to know that what level the practice unit is, whether it's a level 1 entity, level 2 entity, like that. And based on that, a panel of 3 reviewers will be chosen. Next is name of 3 reviewers shall be recommended, as I said, by the board to the practice unit so selected. So the board will place name of 3 reviewers to the practice unit. The practice unit shall select 1 out of the 3 reviewers and intimate to the board within how many days? Within 7 days of the receipt of the names. Finally, the board shall intimate the reviewer so selected and seek his consent within how many days? Within 7 days. So board will inform the reviewer that, see, you have been selected. Please provide your consent within how many days? Within 7 days. Okay. Now what we'll do is, in relation to this part, that is selection of practice unit and appointment of reviewer, the elaborate version of that is provided here. Okay, so they have given here along with the planning part. So what they have done is in the peer review process itself, they have provided the same thing. Now let's read this part so you'll understand in much greater depth what they were trying to say. Now this is just an elaborate version. Okay, let's read it. When you read it, you will understand how it flows. Peer review board, that is basically called as the board, selects the practice unit for the peer review. The peer review voluntarily applies. As we said, the peer reviewer, the practice unit can voluntarily apply also for undergoing the peer review. Okay. Next is the practice unit will be notified by the board and is requested to submit the duly filled declaration to the board for confirming its level, as we read the same thing. Okay. Now you will see a little bit extension of whatever points we read there. Okay. The board selects a panel of 3 reviewers to match the level of the practice unit, which is ascertained from the declaration submitted by the practice unit. The board seeks acceptance from the reviewers for undertaking the peer review of the practice unit. So it will seek the acceptance from the reviewers. After receiving the confirmation from the 3 reviewers, this panel of 3 reviewers is sent to the practice unit along with a questionnaire and attachment for, and B is a notification for the peer review fees. A notification for the peer review fees. Okay, these 2 will be provided. The practice unit selects and informs the name of the reviewer within how many days? Within 10 days. Finally, completed questionnaire enclosing a complete set of assurance services clients is sent to the selected reviewer within how many days? Within 15 days. So within 15 days, this will be provided. Okay. So that has to be provided by the practice unit to the selected reviewer. So that has to be completed properly. Okay. Next is the practice unit to provide any other information which the reviewer may seek after the reviewer goes through the questionnaire that is filled, goes through the client list that is filled. Now, after that, the reviewer may ask certain questions for which the practice unit has to provide any other information. An initial sample is selected by the reviewer representative of the practice unit's client's portfolio. So initial sample can be requested, okay, regarding the data. Peer review, practice unit will be notified of the selection of the initial sample 2 weeks in advance of the commencement of the review. And finally, so basically when you're starting the review 2 weeks in advance, you have to provide the sample data, okay, the initial sample. Finally, the execution work will begin. Okay, so this is what is they have provided. As you can see, it is basically a an extension in relation to what we had done here. Okay, now planning. Now let's read this part. Now, because we have just read this this diagram, we have just done the planning part as per the peer review process here. So basically, now you understand that how that entire process will work. So in that, you have to add this point, that is basically information to be furnished by the peer review board. The peer review board shall call for relevant information from the UDIN Directorate, UDIN again unique document identification number, and share the concerned details with the peer reviewer, which shall form part of the peer review. So now they have introduced the UDIN part also in the peer review process, which is an excellent thing. Okay, because then only the document will stay true, stay unified, and the document will be ensured that it is a truthful document. Okay. Next is execution. Let's see this. Peer review visits. Peer review visits will be conducted at the practice unit's head office or the branches or any other location. This on-site review shall not extend beyond 7 days to 15 working days based on the size of the practice unit. So that's it. 7 days to 15 working days. Only that much days is allotted to the reviewer to review the practice unit's systems and procedures. Okay. Okay. Now the next part is in relation to the peer review certificate. So here they have given that on receipt of the peer review report, the board shall within 3 months issue a peer review certificate to the practice unit mentioning the next due date for review. Inform the practice unit that the peer review certificate cannot be issued. It will not be issued with the reasons. Okay. Therefore, as well, inform the practice unit about the due date for conducting the follow-on review. So basically, we are issuing the peer review certificate in this case and also informing a due date for the next review. And here in this case, we are not providing the certificate with the reasons. And we are telling them that, see, we cannot give you the certificate right now. The certificate may be given only after conducting the follow-on review. So we will give them the due date for the follow-on review. Okay. Next is validity of the peer review certificate. A practice unit cannot continue with the existing certificate whose validity has expired. All documents signed by the practice unit during the intervening period, that is expiry of the previous certificate and issuance of the new certificate, that is the intervening period, will be invalid. So they have clearly said that it will be invalid. Therefore, it is responsibility of the practice unit to complete the peer review of the firm and submit all necessary documents at least 1 month before the date of expiry of the previous certificate so that the peer review can be conducted properly. Okay, so that's what they have said, that all the necessary documents have to be provided 1 month before the date of expiry of the previous certificate. Okay. So these are the amendments pertaining to the peer review part. Now what I'll request you all is, again, pause the video, read the entire amendments in relation to the peer review part. It is, quite a lot of changes are there. And after that, you can start with the next part. Okay, now an important thing in relation to quality review, there are similar areas as we saw in peer review. But however, if you see quality review, there are a lot of new things that have been introduced. So what I'll request you all is, I've provided here that complete chapter along with notes is uploaded on YouTube. See the link in the description to this video, which you are currently seeing. So in the description area, you will see that the complete list, complete chapter coverage of quality review has been done and proper notes have been provided pertaining to that so that you can simply go to the quality review chapter. I think quality review chapter is around 2 hours. So ensure that 2 hours you're keeping aside and doing quality review in a proper manner, and so that there is no problem in that. In quality review chapter, there are a lot of diagrams using which I have taught, which you will really enjoy learning. And I'm ensuring that all the answers will be stuck in your mind. You will remember each and everything that is there in quality review chapter also. Okay, so you can click on the description below and you will find the link there. Okay.
you.